Hard Hat's all about showing up to play hard, doing what it takes to win.
If you want to cement legacy, win another.
He's your third center.
You don't want to pump him up too much, but it's hard not to.
This is maybe the most I've ever agreed with you.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to, wait, we're not dropping the ball. We're scoring touchdowns. We're knocking down shots. We're doing what Baylor Shireman could not do, and that is we're going to actually be taking and making shots tonight. Hello, folks. This is Sherrod Blakely of the Big 3 NBA Podcast, joined by Noa Dalzell of You Got Boston, and our guest today is the one and only Gary Washburn of the Boston Globe. What's going on, folks? Don't jump all in at one time. Damn.
My mute button froze. I apologize. No. Go ahead, Gary.
No, what's up, Sherrod?
How you doing, Gary? My man.
Yeah, all right. Yeah.
Happy. We're gonna just jump right into things and just talk about the Celtics defeating the Lakers 87-78 in Summer League play. Lots of players stood out for better or for worse. We'll get into that. But I want to just really get it started off talking about Jordan Walsh. I think all of us in some way, shape, or form have talked about Jordan in some capacity and how big this summer is for him and his growth and really his ability to show himself as an impact player and someone that the Celtics can keep around beyond, what we've seen thus far. Had a good game tonight, 17.6 rebounds, did not get ejected. So that's a big positive there. Just real quick, you guys were at the game. What were your impressions of Jordan and just what he was able to do tonight?
Yeah, I think Jordan, I feel like, has been the most consistent player for this team now that Charles Bassey is no longer on the Celtics. So he has been the most consistent. He had obviously the ejection last game, and that put a damper on what was looking to be a pretty good night. But today, another game where he just looks like so in control and so different from how he looked last Summer League. I spent the whole last Summer League here, and it's just night and day. And it just goes to show you how if you get in a good group, I don't think he's like that much of a better player in 1 year. I think it's more just that his mindset's in the right place, and then he's playing more within himself. Observation from just sitting on the sidelines that he is such a big trash talker. He was talking trash the entire game. I was like 1 foot away from the Celtics bench, which is not normally where I sit. And yeah, that was just a sideline note that he was super engaged in this one. He told Gary after the game that he really wanted to beat the Lakers. He wanted to make a statement, and he threw a windmill dunk, and he just seemed really passionate in this game. And I think he's having a lot of fun, and that's the big difference. He was not having fun last summer. He looked pretty miserable with how things were going.
Yeah, we've got that sound where Gary did talk to him about the windmill dunk. And I know, Gary, you and I, we've talked about him a lot. And I know your take has been that he needed a big summer to really kind of establish himself with this team. How has his summer been just from your perspective? I mean, has he had the kind of summer you thought that he would need in order to just keep the Celtics brass happy?
Yeah, I think he definitely needed to show each night that he was one of the best players on the floor. And I think that's what he's done in the first, 3.5 games he's played. He was pretty good against Miami before he got tossed. But like tonight, I just thought he was one of the better players on the floor. And he was playing with guys on the Lakers, Dalton Knecht, a second-year player, Bronny James, Christian Coloco. So there's guys on the Lakers that were legit NBA players or have had NBA experience. And Jordan was one of the best players on the floor. And I just think that's what you want to do. It's his third Summer League. He needed to just kind of show he's comfortable and he's not thinking too much, that he's just making plays and he's aggressive and he's got a little dog in him. And, we all look at Jordan, and ever since he's been to Boston, he's one of the nicer guys you'll ever meet. He's very approachable. He's just a kind man, just a great guy, right? And so you don't want to see that on the court. Like, you don't want to see him, patting everybody on the back and doing his thing. You want to see him talk trash. You want to see him play with a swagger that he hasn't shown yet. And that's hard when you're 19 years old coming into the league and you're playing with Tatum Brown and you're rookie, on that championship team, and he's just kind of like, oh my God, what the hell's going on here? I go from being a 7th man at Arkansas to winning an NBA championship. But I think now he really is a legit NBA player. Now, will that carry over to training camp? And, I think he's got to continue the development to fight for minutes because minutes are available.
Yeah. Gary, the point that you brought up about him just being 19 years old, and he is becoming more of the rule than the exception as far as being really, really young, having lots of growth ahead of him, and being drafted more on his potential than really his proven body of work. And with those guys, it does take them a little bit of time. I mean, you look at, a team like, for example, the Portland Trailblazers and Scoot Henderson, who I think is going to have a big year. He's another one of those really young guys who is starting to kind of come into his own a little bit now that he's had some time, and he was a very young guy coming to the league as well. The one thing about Jordan, though, I've liked really from the beginning is I think there's a level of athleticism that he has that we don't see enough of. And I think we saw some of that certainly in this game against the Lakers. In fact, we've got the sound where you talk to him a little bit about that windmill dunk. Ahmed, make it happen.
You can't just the windmill, man. What's going on? Like, what happened? What went in your head? I mean, I think it's the first time you've seen this.
Yeah, I wanted to beat the Lakers bad. I wanted to make a statement real bad. So I decided to put some icing on the cake.
How motivated were you to just atone for what happened last game?
Super motivated. I was even more motivated when we came out and they were hitting me, pushing me, all type of dirty stuff. And I was just like, all right, stay cool, calm, play, let's win this game, and really be happy after.
Jordan, at the start of Summer League, you talked a little bit about finding the balance of you don't want to do too much, but also you've had some success putting the ball on the floor. How have you felt as though you managed that balance of playing off the ball, but also being able to create when you have a chance?
I think obviously I'm working on all parts of my game, obviously, but I think when it comes to Summer League, it's all about what can you do in the moment to help us win. And in the moment, I was getting a couple plays called for me where I had to create, or was just in the flow of offense, and I had to create. And so I just took every moment like that with as much confidence as I could, determination to just get a bucket.
There was a moment in the corner where you took a shot, they yelled hell no, and then you said hell yeah back to them. What was all that?
So I didn't say hell yeah, I said hold that.
Okay.
But y'all remember that the Baylor handoff in the corner. Yeah, I definitely said hold that.
Who was that?
It was DJ Stewart said that.
Oh, the man.
Yeah, from my teammate. Yeah, my old teammate. That's crazy you do me like that.
Be your own people.
Yeah, be your own people. So.
Have you always been a big trash talker?
Yeah. I'll be talking crazy.
Do you instigate it, or do you wait for it to start and then you're kind of ready to go?
It depends how I'm feeling. If I'm feeling good in this role, I'm starting it. But usually I'm not starting it. But if somebody says anything to me, then it's I'm giving them all I got.
Interesting. I did not know that about Jordan Walsh, that he talks game. The thing that he has to understand, though, is talking game is one thing. Can you back it up? Can you speak that? Can you talk that talk and walk that walk? And up to this point in his career, he has not done that at all. So where's your confidence level that talk that Jordan loves to do, apparently, is going to actually manifest itself into really good play, the kind of play that you're like, okay, I see why he's talking, because he can do that. Do you anticipate we'll see some more of that this year, Noah? We got no sound, Noah. There we go.
Sorry about that. I think Gary just looked over at me so disappointed. I can't figure out if his personality and just the way that he is, he's clearly very emotional. He plays with his heart on his sleeve, if that's a strength or a weakness. Because on one hand, it's great that he cares so much. It's great that he's trying to get an opponent's head. On the other hand, watching, Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown and, the stars of the Celtics be so even keeled and really not get into that stuff. There's a question around how effective it is. So I do think that I've been covering him in Maine over the last few years. He does talk a lot of trash. I think he's been doing it even more in Summer League. And there's just been this kind of fun atmosphere around this team that's probably enabled him to do that. But it's still hard for me to put my finger on like whether or not this is an asset or something that he has to kind of work through, because clearly we've seen him get ejected, we've seen him get emotional, but also on the other hand, like that's kind of the role that he's supposed to play, right? And he cares a lot. And I'll just say, like, on the sidelines, he was standing the entire game. He's talking to everybody. Like, he was being a leader in the same vein as well. So I don't have like a strong conclusion, but certainly like that's his personality, and he is not just your average NBA player that comes in and is just kind of stone faced.
Yeah, the guys that talk trash, I mean, you got to bring it. You got to bring it every game. You got to be someone that when you're talking that trash, it's actually having an impact. And the only way you can do that is play at a higher level because of that. It has to become your fuel. I don't know if Jordan has figured out how to fuel himself to better play by smacking them gums, because we haven't seen it up to this point. And it's great that you're doing this in Summer League, but as much as I like what I saw, against the Lakers, I can't help but in the back of my mind think about what happened against the Heat, where when it got a little bit more physical than you felt comfortable with, rather than talk that trash and bust their ass, you just got overly physical and got taken out of your game, especially in a game that it was maybe the best first half you had in the Summer League. I mean, he had like 13 points when he got tossed. He was on his way to a big game. So Gary, what's your take on the trash talk? I know Gary's a big trash talker too. He loves trash talk.
No, not necessarily. I think it's cool, Jordan's in Summer League or whatever. But I also look at Jordan and how do I put this? Like, he's a kid. I mean, obviously with like the alopecia and just him probably he's been made fun of and ridiculed since he was so young.
Plays with a chip on his shoulder.
And the way to fight back with that is to give it back, because you can't. And Sherrod, you probably know this growing up in Syracuse. Like, if you get it when you're a kid and you don't give it back, people are just gonna continue to
piling on.
You're an easy target. So I think with Jordan, he's probably hearing stuff from the fans and all that stuff, and he gives it back. And I think that's a good thing. It's a good thing for him to be confident. It's a good thing for him to understand and be like kind of, empowered with his skill set, because he definitely has improved. I have noticed his ability to go to the basket. His ball handling has gotten better. Now, is he going to be trash talking, Anthony Edwards and LeBron and, Luka and guys who are, mega stars? Is he going to be in their face? Probably not.
Hell no. I'm going to answer that for you. Hell no.
But, DJ Stewart and Dalton Connect and Christian Coloco and you're good. You can give it to them because they're guys kind of on your level and you're getting the best of them. But yeah, I don't think the trash talking's carrying into the regular season where he's going to get in, the face of, ex superstar and be like, yeah, man, he ain't going to be all up in Jalen Brunson's face or, guys, all NBA guys. So it's tempered. I think he'll understand that. But I also think he's becoming more confident, in his skill set, right? He's a guy, the game is slowing down. He's getting basically more reps, and he sees an opportunity. He told me Missoula pulled him aside after the season and said, hey, man, I don't know what's going to happen with this roster. So I don't know what your role is going to be next year. This is before the Drew trade, before the Kristaps trade, before Cornette left. Obviously, I don't think Torrey Craig's coming back. So nothing of this had happened besides the Jason injury. And he told me, well, I'm going to have another conversation with Joe because obviously the roster's changed and, I want some minutes, not saying he feels like he should, but he feels like this is his chance to capitalize and take a step forward. So I'm okay with Jordan being confident. And I think it's so good natured. It's hard for him, you sit there and be like, man, you're being a jerk right now. Like, he's not, like, it was funny. He's a funny guy. And, go ahead. I'm sorry, Sherrod. He's just a funny guy. And so anything he does, I just remember, like, there was a game with the Celtics and the Knicks, and Taco Fall was putting in work.
My guy.
And it was at the Garden, not TD, Madison. And the New York
other
fans
Garden.
were like, yes. And we're like, Taco. So I remember asking Marcus Morris, who, had a little fire to him.
My man Mook.
Yeah, because he was with the Knicks then. And I said, are you upset, or does that bother you that Taco is playing to the crowd? And he looked and was like, man, ain't nothing Taco could do go upset me, man. I ain't go. That's not one guy. He's such a big, gentle giant. Like, I ain't go. That don't upset me. It might have been if there's another guy, but and I feel the same about Jordan Walsh. Like, man, I ain't, I'm not going to complain about anything that kid does because it's all in fun.
That's a good point. Yeah, he is like, it's clearly not bad natured. I think the only thing I'm thinking is, like, is it an advantage to be emotional on the floor or not? Like, as far as decision making and just being able to stay cool under pressure and all that. But in the same sense, like, he always looks like he's having a blast. Like, this is the same guy that asked to go up to Maine on his off day because he just wanted to play more basketball and like that sort of thing.
Yeah, I mean, I guess when I think about that good natured banter. And how it could really go wrong for you, I think about Grant Williams. Great guy, talked a little trash, but there was the gap between his ability to consistently impact winning and the level of trash talk. Oh, it got a little messy there for him. I mean, do you see? I mean, are we talking about two completely different type of animals here? Or are we talking about, are there similarities? Gary, you shaking your head. I don't know whether you're saying yes, no. What the hell are you saying? Speak, boy, speak.
I completely disagree with you, because if you look at that Miami game where he was the only one who stood up to Butler, and nobody, that game 2 said so much against Miami, said so much in the Eastern Conference Finals in 23, said so much about that team, and no one else had his back. Don't poke the bear. Like, this is NBA ball. Like, you know what? People talk trash to LeBron. People talk trash to, unfortunately, people did talk trash to Jordan. Like, it might have burned you in the end. He might have dropped 50 or whatever and then said, nice try, kid. But you got to go out there and fearless. And so I felt Grant is kind of turned into more of a physical player where he's kind of a bruiser, the whole foul on Tatum last year in Charlotte. But I felt like with Grant, he was trying to get his teammates going. And if you remember that game against Butler, he was the only one that stood up to Butler. And everybody, and to me, it's like, where's Jason? Where was Jalen? Where was Mark? Where were your teammates to have your back? So I don't think Grant, and we all know Grant is a talker. Like, he is a 12-minute interview with 2 questions, right? Like, we loved Grant. So I think they're completely different. I don't think anything that Jordan does is bad natured, and I don't see him carrying his trash talk to another level where I said before, he's talking trash to all NBA guys and dudes that could drop 40 on him in a drop of a hat.
Yeah. But the fact that you brought up Luka and Dalton Connect in the same breath is a wide ass difference in who you dealing with. So if he's going to, I agree with you, Gary. I mean, he's got to be smart about when he's going to go there. You can't, I just don't think that I think you can poke the bear, particularly when the bear is bigger than you and better than you and stronger than you and can crush your ass. That's the problem I used to have with Grant. He would pick the biggest bears that he had no shot at handling. And that's not, to me, that's just, you got to be smart about that. If you're Jordan Walsh and Dalton Connect maybe hit a shot or 2 and you start talking trash to him, that's smart, because that's a guy that your talent will allow you to neutralize or overtake. But talking smack to Luka, come on. That's not the smart basketball. Before we go any further, we've got our big three here. But what would a Garden Report be without John Zanis? Zanis is always going to be around with us. Ahmed.
This show, as always, is powered by Prize Picks, America's #1 daily fantasy sports app. Turn your sports opinions into real cash with Prize Picks. With millions of members, Prize Picks has made daily fantasy sports accessible to all. All you have to do is pick more or less on at least 2 players for a shot to win up to 2,000 times your cash. All you have to do is download that Prize Picks app, use the code CLNS to get $50 in your account when you play 5. That's it. All you have to do, play a $5 lineup, 50 instantly in your account when you use the code CLNS. You don't have to win. All you have to do is play 5, and that is that. Always check the Prize Picks app. There's free squares to be had all the time. Once again, all you have to do for new users is download that Prize Picks app, use the code CLNS, play 5, get 50 instantly in your account. Once again, download the app, play 5, get 50 instantly when you use the code CLNS. Prize Picks, run your game.
Absolutely. There would not be a Garden Report without a John Zanis voice in there somewhere, obviously. And also, just to kind of piggyback off of what John was saying, this is the Garden Report, and we're part of the CLNS Media Network, which is where you'll find our content, the Big Three NBA podcast with Gary and myself. You Got Boston podcast with Noah, and other simply awesome, amazingly awesome Boston Celtics centric content, past and present, as well as other great Celtics content throughout there. So definitely keep that in mind as we progress through what is going to be an amazingly awesome show, because we've got happy joy Gary and happy joy Noah. Because they're always happy. And for what I gather, the post game was a pretty happy occasion. Is that fair to say, Gary? Because Noah, I feel the happy vibe. I usually feel that. Gary, I'm trying to feel the happy vibe. I'm trying to feel it.
You'll understand. Okay. Yeah, it was. Like, everybody was in a good mood. Even Baylor. Like, Baylor gave his Love Island review. Right?
You know Love Island, Gary?
Huh?
Gary, what you know about Love Island?
Never seen it before in my life. Sorry. We're the black folks in it. Anyway,
they're not there. Keep going.
Yeah.
That's not true.
No, I'm just being funny. Anyway, Matt Reynolds told, God, I have to look at the roster because he did not play tonight. Who did he tell? Who did he tell Noah to watch Blue Streak?
Someone that didn't play?
Who was it that he told to watch Blue Streak?
Aiden Gray, Benjamin Gray.
It was Zach Hicks.
Zach Hicks, okay. He told him to watch the movie Blue Streak, the movie with Martin Lawrence. If people don't, Martin's done a lot of movies, but this one was about him getting stealing diamonds and then getting arrested, and he stored the diamonds in a building. And if I'm not mistaken,
what was he supposed to take away from watching this movie? Just curious.
There was some lines there that Matt and Emil Jefferson both watched the movie, and obviously they're fans, and they both said the same line to Hicks, like basically, yeah, it's like that. And so Hicks was like, and apparently Hicks was taking 3-pointers. Emil Jefferson and Reynolds were watching him or working with him, and he hit a 3 in someone's face, and then someone said, it's like that. He goes, yeah, it's like that. And both Jefferson and Matt Reynolds said at the same time, and they looked at each other like, wow, Blue Streak. So they told Hicks to watch Blue Streak during this week. I don't think he has. So he had a movie assignment. And I just thought that was hysterical. And I was like, why Blue Streak? With all Martin Lawrence
movies, right.
Why Blue Streak? And he explained it.
Okay.
So I got a newfound respect for Matt Reynolds that he likes Martin Lawrence movies. So things you just don't know. And also, too, and Noah, I'm sure, is going to write about this wonderfully. Matt's parents were there. That was cool too. That was good to see Mr. and Mrs. Reynolds like watching their son coach an NBA ball game. I mean, that has to be a thrill. So yeah, it was a very fun-loving post-game session. Even Baylor, I said, who struggled, but Baylor was in good mood, So, and Miles Norris, we haven't talked to him much. I talked to him the other day, and he had jokes for Jordan and then Jordan. So, a bunch of good guys in this team.
Yeah. Well, the fact that Noah's face just immediately started to curl upward with the mention of Miles Norris, I'm just going to toss that to, because we'll get to Baylor. We're going to get to Baylor. I promise. But let's stay in a happy zone right now. And Miles Norris clearly is in the Noa Dalzell.
I do like Miles Norris, but I was actually smiling because I was glad that Gary had the same takeaway from postgame as me. Because remember when I came on and I was like, it was a blast.
I didn't believe you.
You didn't believe me. Yeah, he was like, only if Gary says it, I'll believe you. So I think Miles there's something so fascinating about his game because his frame and his like physical tools and his shot, and you can see that there's an NBA player in there if everything comes together much more than some of the other guys in the roster that are more discussed. But it just for some reason hasn't come together. But I asked him after the game, like, who are the guys you're looking for when you're studying film? And he mentioned Michael Porter Jr. as one of those guys. I feel like that's a pretty good comparison for him. Like if he's going to aim to be somebody that like that type of shot, that type of length that he has. I just feel like he should be more dominant than he has been. And I don't know if it's just a lack of opportunity so far. He was pretty good in Maine. He was pretty good in the G League in general. But I'm excited about him. Like I like his game. And there's something about him that just feels like he has the physical tool. So it just makes you more confident that it could potentially come together. And he's a really good shooter. And that's like, it's hard to, some of these guys, like you're believing in like the idea of their shot or you want to see the shot come together. His shot's kind of been there. I mean, he didn't shoot great tonight, but in general, he has been shooting pretty consistently over the last few years.
Mm-hmm. We're going to get to someone who really did not shoot the ball well tonight in a minute. But before we get, well, you know what? Screw that. I was going to talk about Bronny James, but I really don't feel like talking about Bronny James. I don't really care about Bronny James. He had a good game. Yeah, supposed to. I want to talk about our good friend Baylor. This was not one of Baylor's. This will not go in the capsule of Baylor Sherman highlight games for sure. 2 for 14 shooting, 2 for 11 for 3-point range. Really, and the two shots he made, I believe they came in the first half. I'm going to start with you, Noah, because I know that Baylor's one of your guys. G League, Maine, Celtics. What is it? Why should I feel good about Baylor after this game?
I think the thing with Baylor is that he hasn't looked bad, I thought, in Summer League. I mean, he hasn't looked amazing, but he just can't hit anything. And I've actually been impressed with his ability to not let the missed shots impact everything else. I said this last game. I know that's not what fans want to hear from Summer League because they want to see their first round pick dominate, not show positive intangibles. But ultimately, he said it after the game, like he's been making shots for a long time. That's not really the question around him. He shot well in the NBA. He shot well in the G League. He shot well in college. So a bad week and a half of shooting for me is just not going to move the needle so much. I understand that if you're reactive, like that's just the way you're going to process his shooting splits, and they've been terrible. And I do think that he took a few bad shots today, just trying to kind of like get himself in rhythm. Mm-hmm. But the other things are the things that excite you about him. And I still think he's been making an impact on the floor, not as much as he would be if he was also putting the ball in the basket. So I just remember the overreactions to Jordan Summer League last year. I think there's something about Summer League that, and obviously like I'm here, I do think it matters. I wouldn't have come here if I didn't think it mattered, but I think there's something about Summer League where if you get in your own head of like, I was supposed to do really well and here I am, and I'm actually doing badly. It just seems to be this like self-fulfilling prophecy. You see it on the other side with Dalton Connect, who had good NBA moments this season, who has been terrible for the Lakers for the most part during Summer League. So I just don't want to overreact to it. I'm not going to say like I'm super encouraged from what we've seen, because obviously he's older and, you want to see him become a rotation player this year. And he has shown a lot of promise in limited moments for Boston. But at the end of the day, like being in a shooting slump for a couple games in Vegas it's not an indictment on like your potential as a player. And ultimately like that's kind of all we've seen so far.
Well, that being said, when kind of the primary function of you as a player is to make shots, and you don't. Even if it's a week or two slump, you have to ask yourself why. What's happening? Is it? I don't believe it's a mechanics thing. I don't believe it's anything other than him simply not making shots. But the one thing that I think concerns me a little bit about his struggles is the potential opportunity that he's not making the most of. And I'm not talking about just summer league play. I'm talking about planting the seeds in Joe Mazzulla's head that you can be more than you were a year ago, that your game has progressed. And I think some of that stuff you talk about, know about, the other things that he's doing, like he's facilitating it, that definitely looks better. There's no question about that. But he's also turning the ball over more too, because he's trying to be more of a facilitator. So you've got to balance those two out. I just wonder if whatever strides that he's making in terms of gaining the confidence of his head coach is Jordan Walsh or Ugo Gonzalez. Are they tightening that race a little bit? Because I do think coming into Summer League, if you had to put which of these three guys is going to get the first crack at playing in Joe's semi-regular rotation, I put Baylor at the front of that list. I'm not sure the gap that Baylor had is as wide now as it was before Summer League. Gary, I'm curious, where do you see that wing race that the Celtics are going to have when you look at Ugo, you look at Baylor, and you look at Jordan Walsh? How do you see that playing out so far in Summer League going into, just going forward?
Yeah, that's a tough one because, are either of those three going to get significant minutes or a significant role? I'm not really sure right now. Like, Ugo was going to be okay, but he needs reps. He needs to play in the G League. He needs to get his confidence. He needs to figure out a position. I'm encouraged to hit a couple of corner threes tonight. He's playing with toughness. He's not backing down. You can tell he's played internationally. You can tell that he's played with grown-ass men. So I think he's not intimidated, but he just needs reps. He needs to play. I don't think putting him at the end of the bench and having him play every other game or every third game is going to help him. Like, they need to send his ass to Maine so he can get 30, 35 minutes a game so he can just get the reps. Baylor, I see good things in him. The shot ain't falling. So is it form? Is it, does he go with, one of the assistants goes with Tony Dobbins or just and breaks down his game tape to see if he's like something mechanical, because he's 8 for 39 from three in Summer League. That's 20.5%.
5%. Yep.
Yeah, like that's not good. So he's getting open looks too. It's
That's
not
the
like
thing too.
He's not knocking them down. He knocked down one in the second half. I thought that was encouraging for him. He's playing hard. He's doing the little things. So you can probably figure out the shot. And Jordan, I think, might have the best chance because he can be that he can run the floor. He's got athleticism. He might be an asset this year. Now, I'm not saying he's going to have 25 minutes a game, but I think he can fill that. I think last year they really thought Torrey Craig was going to fill a role that he just never could fill. Mm-hmm. And he ended up being kind of just a guy on the team and a good vet and that type of thing. And I think Jordan can maybe be an upgrade from that, right? Knock down the corner three, run the floor, be a menace on defense, and be the ninth man on the team, because at this point, Niang's got to play. Like let's say the roster is intact. We don't know if what the roster is going to look like in 2.5 months when training camp starts. But let's say it's intact. So Simons is probably going to start. So you got Hauser, Niang, and Pritchard coming off the bench. So that's 8 if you start Kada. And then you've got Xavier Tillman that, who knows what they're going to do with him. So to me, it's going to be – there's minutes there. but not a lot as like the ninth man. Joe likes to keep it to 8. And then Niang is a guy who can play a role on this team. Obviously, he's an NBA player. So, but I do think there's a role for Jordan, and I think he's the favorite right now because Baylor has to prove he can knock down shots. If Baylor can't knock down shots, then to me, he's going to be on the end of the bench.
Right now, I mean, the guy that I would put at the head of that race would be Jordan Walsh, just because of all the things you've said. But I think maybe most important, where he was at the end of last season and what you're seeing from not just in terms of stats and stuff like that, but just presence. Like he carries himself like he's older than he was a year ago. When you look at leadership, when you look at, the little incident with the Miami Heat, which got him a text from Joe Mazzulla, who was pretty excited about that. Those are the kind of things that when I think about who's going to be that ninth guy, who's going to be that one guy that Joe Mazzulla is just going to throw out there as a wild card that he's confident can help them, I see Jordan leading the way. And the other guy I want to talk about, and right now, full disclosure, I've taken all my leftover Romeo Langford stock, my leftover Neesmith stock, and I'm putting it all in a little basket, and I'm putting it all on Ugo. I'm going, and there's not a whole lot of stock there, but that's the guy that I think by the time we get near the end of the season, he's not going to be starting, he's not going to be playing, but I think he's going to be a guy that's going to make a positive impact on this team. I think he's going to help them win at least 2 or 3 games this year. When I watch him play, and again, I hate to commit what I call the I hate to overhype him, but watching him play reminds me just flashes of Manu Ginobili. Now he's not there, he's not Manu, but he's got that kind of that wiggle about him that Manu has, and I love that about him. I mean, when you watch him play, the best stuff that he does are on plays where his number's not called, a tip in, a pass, the little things that show that he understands that there's this cog that he has to be in order to help the machine of winning occur, and he's comfortable being that. I really like it, but to your point, Gary, he's got so much to learn. He's got so much to learn. His defense has to get appreciably better. His shot making has to be more consistent. But when I look at the mechanics of his shot, at least from afar, they don't look bad. In fact, it seems that he, more than anything else, he needs reps, as you pointed out, because even with his team overseas, he's not getting a ton of playing time with them either. So Ugo is my guy. That's going to be my guy.
I'll say this about Ugo and other Spanish players. Like, there's been the Gasol brothers, amazing players, going to, Paul's in the Hall of Fame. Mark's got his number retired in Memphis. But if you look at the Spanish players who kind of were thrown in, the Sergio Gonzalez, Rudy Fernandez, like they were, even Ricky Rubio, they were okay. Right? They were okay. They weren't great players. And Ricky, if you remember the hype that Ricky Rubio came into remember, he was taking over Steph. That's the one thing. That's and
my boy Johnny Flynn. My boy Johnny Flynn was let's keep it real. Johnny Flynn, you're Syracuse guy. So and Ricky had a solid career, but not what people thought he was going to be. People thought he was going to be just this dynamic, kid who, he was playing in the Olympics when he was 17, 18. So I think the key is not to rush Ugo into playing against this high level competition. So to me, give him reps in Maine. Just bring him along slowly because he has potential. I do think, Sherrod, he has Ginobili potential when he gets more stronger, more confident. But this year, he didn't crack the rotation for Real Madrid. How are you going to crack the rotation for the Celtics? Well, I mean, Gary, the rotation for Real Madrid, and you know this better than I do, there are a lot of veterans. with NBA experience. In fact, if you take out, let's put it this way, that rotation in Real Madrid in terms of experience is as deep, if not deeper, than the Celtics. And I'm talking about talent. I'm not talking about talent. I'm talking about just veteran experience. And international teams, they typically lean more on the experienced players than they do the ones with talent potential. That's why a guy like Luka Doncic was such, a unicorn type talent, because he was incredibly young, incredibly talented, and more importantly, was given an opportunity to showcase that. When you look at Ugo, I think it's clear that that's a guy that I think in certain situations can help the Celtics this year. I really think he's going to be a pretty good player. Now, is he going to be as good as Ginobili? I don't know, but I do think he's a guy that could be on the cusp of your rotation by the season's end. He's not going to start off there because he's not. I agree. I don't think he's ready, but I do think some time in Maine, some time with the Celtics, kind of going back and forth. I think he can build up to that and be someone that, when we're getting near the end of the season, you feel really good about his place within your roster. I'm just curious, Noah, what's your take on Ugo? You've seen him play a few times now.
Yeah, I think Matt Reynolds said this after the game, but he's exactly as advertised. Like, nobody said he was going to be polished. Nobody said he was going to be a great shooter. Like, we knew that there was going to be, issues with his game, places where he was going to have to adjust. But he plays with a ton of energy. He gives it his all in every possession. He seems like a great kid. Like, obviously we don't know him super well yet, but he is super engaged on the sidelines. Like, there were a couple moments where, like, there was one moment that really stuck out to me where Kenny Lofton airballed a three from the top of the key, and Ugo was calling for the ball, and as soon as he airballed it, Kenny looked at him like, "Oh, my bad, I should not have shot that," and he gave him like 2 thumbs up and went over to tap him on the back and was like, "You're good, don't worry." And I was thinking, like, he's the 19-year-old on the team, and he has this kind of like professional veteran spirit about him that I don't think Jordan had as a 19-year-old, which is totally fine. Like, you're 19, you don't have to have that, but you can tell that he comes from like a professional background and the cutting, like the crashing the glass. He's had a couple moments where I'm like, that's exactly the player that Brad Stevens kind of pitched to us on draft night. So I do agree he's going to need time in Maine, especially because he's not from here. He's learning the terminology. I think there's a little bit of an extra learning curve with all of that as well. And they like to bring those guys up to Maine to just kind of get acclimated to the system. There's a ton of continuity between Boston and Maine and the plays they run and their defensive schemes and all of that. And especially because there's 2 other guys that basically play his position that are also young guys that the Celtics are going to take a chance on. So I think he'll start there. But we've seen like Jordan and Baylor both started there and they had very different outcomes their rookie year. Like Baylor ended up being in the rotation and, in the later half of the season, whereas Jordan really never even made it back to Boston. So going up to Maine can mean a lot of different things. But that seems pretty plausible. And as far as just comparing the 3 guys, like I think it's human nature to see like, okay, who was like the leader, I guess, as far as potential rotation minutes entering Summer League and who was it now? And we probably would all agree Baylor was the one we felt, or at least I think we agree that Baylor was the one that seemed to be in the lead heading into Summer League, and Jordan seems to be in the lead now. But I just think about like how many times our opinion has changed on these guys based on a couple of game sample. Like after preseason, I was like, Xavier Tillman, he's going to come in and he's going to be awesome during the season. Like he was hitting his threes and like we were all excited about it.
We were all hoodwinked and bamboozled. All of us.
Thinking Jordan Walsh after Summer League, I was like, this guy might not be an NBA player. And then next thing you know, he comes in the games during the regular season and he's fine. Like he doesn't cause any negative things to happen. So I just expect there to be a lot of more highs and lows with these guys, because the guys that get drafted around this time, like there's a reason why they weren't lottery picks, but at the same time, they also have upside. So I actually, if I had to guess right now, there's going to be a month where Baylor Shireman's more in the rotation, and there's going to be a month where Baylor's struggling a little bit and Joe turns a little bit more to Jordan. And what I'd like to see is Joe just give all of these guys a little bit more of an opportunity, because it's going to be a different kind of year. So like we're used to it being like this 8-man rotation. You make a couple mistakes, you're pretty much out. But I'd be curious to see if there's a world where like maybe they're struggling for a few games, but they stay in the rotation, like kind of getting the opportunities that guys like Keita haven't gotten, just because the expectations are a little bit different and the depth is different too. Like you don't have an all-NBA first-team player that is going to come in and play 40 minutes a night in the wing position. So I'm excited about all these guys, but tentatively, and I don't know that I have like a strong feeling that like this is the guy that's going to be their backup wing for the foreseeable future, because it's just so hard to tell.
Yeah, and well, Joe's not going to have a choice. I mean, before, if let's say some of those young guys were struggling at the wing position, you just lean a little bit more on Drew, you lean a little bit more on Derek White. You lean a little bit more on just, your core, but you don't have a Drew Holiday anymore. You don't have a Porzingis anymore. You don't have Tatum for, most, if not all of the season. So those young guys are going to have to step up. We've talked a lot about, the guys that we know are in the mix to play for the Celtics and who did some really good things in Summer League. We haven't talked yet about the guy who was probably, if not the best player, the next best player so far, who did not play in this game and who has, I guess, gone somewhere. Charles Bassey, Gary Washburn's favorite Western Kentucky alum. He's my second favorite. My favorite is Courtney Lee, just because Courtney Lee, for Celtics fans, Courtney was here for a hot minute. Incredibly funny dude. Great sense of humor. Even when he was trying to get loud one day in a post-game presser because he wanted to be traded because he wasn't playing in a game, and he was very vocal about, if they're not going to play, you trade me, which was you love that. But let's talk Charles Bassey. Gary, what's his deal? I mean, because I saw you flash the do signs. I saw Charles. He literally flashed the do signs. What's his deal? Like, why is he not with these guys now? Based on, especially when you look at how he played.
I think either A, he's got an offer from another team who told him, take your ass off the floor. You're not playing again in Summer League. He led the Summer League in rebounding. Right, like you good, Charles. You don't need to be on this floor, and so he might obviously have a guaranteed training camp invite, or even perhaps a two-way with another team, or I don't know if the Celtics told him. We were told that he signed a 3-game deal, like he was going to play in 3 games. He was not going to play in a 4th.
Wow.
Like
what are you going to get out of 3 games?
Like Die Hard, I will count to 3. There will not be a 4. You gotta watch that, Noah.
I haven't heard of any of the movies we discussed today, by the way. Even the one that Mad Bundles went off about, I had no idea what he was talking about.
Okay.
This is a part of
Project for Noah. Yeah. Project for Noah. She's got to watch Die Hard. You got to watch Die Hard.
Gary
you got to tell us if it's a Christmas movie too. That's the biggest debate with the movie Die Hard. So. Your homework assignment, Noah, is to watch the movie Die Hard.
Gary is the biggest movie buff, snob, whatever you want to call him. Movies, that's his thing. So don't feel bad, Noah.
Yeah, so there would not be a 4 for Bassey, and I think he's obviously another. There's scouts from international teams. There's obviously every NBA coach and assistant coach and GM is out here. So obviously someone saw him and said, all right, bro, come on out the court. And I don't know whether Brad is thinking whether he's going to get more money than a minimum, whether he's seeking the league minimum, a guaranteed deal, whether he's seeking a guaranteed 2-way. It's probably more than a training camp invite, right? Because I think the Celtics would have, of course, given him an Exhibit 10 contract and brought him back to Boston. So to me, I think someone gave him a better offer and told him, get back home and get ready for camp wherever he's going to go.
Team that makes the most sense to me is Indiana, who they're just desperate to add some heft up front. And the thing that Bassey showed in the games that we saw, he could rebound, he can block shots. And if that's the job that you need him to do, and you don't expect anything more from him, and you can get him at pretty minimal cost, probably minimum salary, hell yeah, you take that, because to me that becomes one of those high reward, low risk propositions that I think almost any team would be willing to do. Noah, what was Bassey as good as the numbers suggest? Just based on what you saw, Noah, because he looked like a machine out there, but I don't know if he was that good.
Yeah. So here's the thing on Bassey, and I talked to some people earlier in summer. I was going to say summer camp, summer league, that basically, I think he was initially actually only supposed to play 2 games with the Celtics, and so they actually extended him a little bit longer than what the initial feeling was going to be. So this was, I think this was just the general idea here. I talked to some people that are more in the overseas space. They were trying to recruit him to go overseas, and kind of that's where their perspective came in. So not anybody in the Celtics organization, but this is the guy that felt like he is too good for Summer League. I think is the understanding that I have, because ultimately he's been in the NBA for 3 years. He's dealt with some injuries, and that's kind of been one of the red flags around him. But a guy in his position that has played, he was drafted in what, 22, 21. Like he didn't, I don't think he wanted to play Summer League. Like, I don't think that he's going to be able to prove too much at Summer League. And I think he knows that. And so the red flags that are around him, around like he's had a lot of injuries over the years, like he's not going to be able to disprove any of that here. So I'm not sure how he ended up on the Summer League roster. He wasn't on the roster that we were given. So like the day that we got here, it was a surprise to even see him on the floor. But from my understanding, he actually overstayed his like initial commitment. So it was no surprise to anybody on the team that he was gone today. I don't think anything like went wrong or anything like that. And I don't think that he has anything lined up, and maybe he does. But that was not, from just talking to people, like I think it's just he wasn't going to do a full Summer League experience, just considering his kind of stature, or where he came in, how long he's been doing this. Like there's a certain runway. Jordan Walsh today, by the way, became the all-time leading scorer for Celtics Summer League. We learned. So I don't know if that's something you want or you don't want.
That's like being MVP of the G League. What exactly is that?
And you know what, Sherrod? There's nothing wrong with being MVP of the G League. In fact, you may get 4 puff pieces from me for it. So
that's it.
But yeah,
4 in that first week. Got you. Okay.
Yeah, exactly. Gary's ready to leave.
Wait, Jordan became. Wait, time out. Let's just rewind here. Jordan,
this was not my scoop. It was Suichi from Mass Live asked it in his question. I don't know how he got this information, but he became aware of the fact. Asked Jordan. Jordan was excited to learn that he was the all-time leading scorer for Celtics Summer League. It came in 3 seasons. It is kind of similar to JD Davison winning G League MVP. It's like, and also becoming the all-time leading scorer for the Maine Celtics. So, I would take the hardware personally, but I understand some people don't want to get Summer League and G League hardware. I would take it.
Is there a plaque or some type of actual piece of hardware that you get? I've got some really, really bad thoughts on what I give someone to be the all-time Summer League scorer.
But to answer your question, Sherrod, I do think Bassey's as good as he looked. It just because if you put Keita right now here, he would also look like way too good to be here. Like there's a certain level of big, and a lot of these guys are like this year's draft picks. They're just bigs that are just trying to adjust. So like a lot of guys have not looked great that I had on my draft board, and I think they would look great in 2 years if they came back 3 Summer Leagues in a row. So you have to kind of watch Summer League with that in mind, of like not all these guys are in the same boat. Some of them are beginning to acclimate to the NBA. Others should have already been and become NBA players, and something went wrong, and that's why they're still here. So I think he was more in that latter category.
Can't wait to see that video tribute to him being at the TD Garden when they announced that he's the all-time leading Summer League scorer in franchise history. Yeah, looking forward to that one. Gary. Hey, listen, we're talking about a lot of guys who, if they are involved with the Celtics, aren't going to be much of an impact player. Let's just be honest and keep it real. But a couple guys that were on the Celtics radar at some point who are no longer on the radar because they have basically committed to other teams. We're talking about Bradley Beal, who is going to be a Los Angeles Clipper. And we're talking about Damian Lillard, who is going to rejoin the Portland Trailblazers on a 3-year, $42 million contract. I believe the last year is a player option, which, considering his age, is a great deal for him. Let's start with Lillard first. Noah, what's would he have been a good fit in Boston?
I think we talked about it a little. I like the idea of just his timeline matching up with Jason Tatum's, and it's a guy that I thought you were gonna get for cheaper than 3 years, $42 million, which is what the Blazers signed him for. Like that to me was obviously not going to be within the Celtics range for the gamble that he is and trying to shed salary, and also he's not able to play next year for the most part. So he would have been a good fit on a minimum or on like even a mid-level exception, but not on this contract. And I don't think that he was going to get this contract from a bunch of teams. But I love it. outside of the Celtics context, like I love this story for him. It makes a lot of sense. It's been reported that the primary reason for going there is that's where his kids have been. So I don't think the Celtics really could compete against that. But I did like the idea of just like year off a year, you could get him for cheap. If Tatum's recruiting him, why not? And that's what I think you, Gary, reported, right?
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, one, if Dame is going back to Portland, I don't think it's to win a title. Like that's like, you know, the Blazers will be better, coached by one of Sherrod's favorite people, Chauncey Billups.
Billups.
Yeah, I didn't ask for that, but okay, yeah, there you go.
My guy, that's my guy. Yeah. Go ahead.
So I do think they'll be improved. I think now, and they got Dame and they got Drew. They're going to be. They got a lot of veterans. They got
Scoot Henderson's going to be better. Scoot's going to be better.
They're going to take a step forward. I think they're going to try to make a run. Maybe go for the play-in spot. Maybe that 7 seed, 8 seed, or something like that next year. And they're getting nothing but talented. And I know Noah watched him too. The Hansen, the kid from China, Yang Hansen.
I love him.
Oh my God, he has been the summer league sensation. He has been probably the most surprising player because no one knew about him, when he got drafted, and he has just taken summer league by storm. He is like the unofficial kind of MVP of the summer league in terms of just his performance and his pull. And a lot of Chinese folks are coming to the games, and there was a contingent yesterday holding up the China flag and filming video for Chinese television. So, and apparently Chinese TV is, as Suichi might have told me, are going to do all the Portland games. They're going to telecast back to China. So this is a big deal. But to me, I think Dame's personal life really took a hit when he went to Milwaukee. He was kind of in the middle of nowhere. He was away from his kids, and it was not probably a good experience. So, and then Portland gave him $42 million. The Celtics are probably going to offer him 11, 2 years, $11 million, that, $12 million. They were not going to give him a third year with a player option. He's got a no trade clause. It's a perfect situation for him in terms of being comfortable. Now, will he win a championship? Likely not. Maybe is Portland 2 years away, from being a championship contender with a lot of good luck and someone on that roster, whether it be Shaedon Sharpe or Scoot Henderson or Klingon, would literally have to turn into Shaq or Kobe or somebody like that. I just don't see it. The West is too difficult. So I think it, like Noah said, I think it's a heartwarming story of him wanting to go home. The exit was not good. Now we all know he's going to get his number retired. He's an all-time, and this is something to be proud of. He's an all-time Blazers leading scorer. Not summer league.
That will get you a standing ovation and a tribute video.
Why not both?
You're right, Noah. What were we thinking?
You know what? Ahmed needs to put together a Jordan Walsh all-time summer league video. Yeah, absolutely. Honoring this momentous occasion.
So to me, I do think he considered Boston. I think he also considered Golden State, Houston, Minnesota, teams that had. Because obviously, he goes to the Rockets, he can win a title. Minnesota's closer to a title than Portland. So this is a special circumstances where it's he can be home now with his children, or I think are nearly 10, 9 and 10. I think, his kids are old enough to know that dad isn't, what I'm saying? And so I think personally for him, this was just a chance to find his personal off the floor happiness and go back to a place where he knows it's home. They love him. And for Portland, you're putting butts in the seats. The team is about to be sold, and Adam Silver dropped the nugget oh yeah, and you need a new arena. And so when Adam Silver gives you the warning that you need a new arena, you need to get a new arena, because if you don't, relocation will be, especially with new ownership, will be a potential possibility. So I think Portland's looked at the off the court impact just as much as on the court and bringing Dame back.
Yeah, I mean the big thing about this that I kind of take away from it is that you often wonder what is it that players truly value about just the league, playing the game, life, all that, and you never really have a clear pecking order of what matters. And Dame, in his own way, has crystallized that loud and clear that family in this instance comes first. Because I mean, he knows damn well you ain't winning no title in Portland. I mean, Gary, that's a great example about finding Shaq or the next coach. That ain't gonna happen. Because even if you found them, you still got to go through an incredibly difficult and daunting Western Conference to get to the finals. You look at a team like Dallas traded away a generational talent, and what do? They got another generational talent the next class. So that's not why he's going back there. He's going back there because that is where his heart is, that is where his family is, and that is where his priorities are right now. And yeah, Gary, the 3-year, $42 million contract, yeah, that absolutely plays a role. But let's be honest and keep it 100. It's not like Dame was seeking to get a max deal. He's already getting paid, significantly well over the next 4 or 5 years by, Milwaukee, who he negotiated that great deal. So I like the fact that this is a player whose values we know. It's very clear with what he wants to do. And similar story, although as far as knowing what their values are, lies with our guy Bradley Beal. Beal is trying to go somewhere where he can play and have a chance to compete with guys who have a similar mindset, which for him, going to the Clippers makes a lot of sense. Him being from St. Louis, Ty Lue being from right around the corner of St. Louis, and I believe it's Mexico, Missouri, that definitely helps big time. Noah, I'm just curious, how do you think Bradley Beal is going to fit in with the Clippers and what they're trying to do out west?
To be honest, I don't really get what the Clippers are trying to do because I don't know that Bradley Beal is like significantly better than Norman Powell, and they let him go. I understand they were trying to negotiate an extension and they did get some value back, but like it doesn't feel like they're going all in on contending the way that some teams are. But at the same time, they have players that have to be win now players in James Harden and Kawhi Leonard. So like I just think there'll be another team that's in the mix next year, but I don't really see how they separate themselves from and how do they beat the Thunder? How do they beat even the Nuggets have had a pretty good offseason. So there's nothing wrong with that. Like especially in the Clippers position, like they have to sell tickets. They got this new arena. Like you want to be competitive. They made it very clear they don't want to go into rebuild mode this offseason. But honestly, Dame's decision to go to Portland makes more sense to me because who knows how good Portland could be in 2 years. They have a lot of young players. They have a lot of, they have Drew Holiday, who we'll see how he holds up. But like, there's a case to be made. They could be a playoff team in a few years. And so the Clippers are ahead of them. But it's like, if you're not going to go to a surefire contender, and there are only a few of those in the league, the rest of these teams, like, it's pretty hard to figure out where they're going to be in a few years from now. And Kawhi Leonard gets hurt. I hope it doesn't happen. But like, there's a lot of factors that things could go wrong. And next thing you know, this team is, in the play-in mix. Like that's very realistic, I think, for a year or two from now. So clearly the Phoenix experiment had expired. He was not a good fit there. I think they needed to kind of clean house, get rid of Durant, get rid of Beal. So it makes sense that he had to go elsewhere. But I don't look at this fit as like this is going to necessarily move the needle. And when I was just going to say this, I see somebody in the chat said, but like with the Dame thing, it's like there's a very clear, like everybody wants to win a championship. But if I would rather be Reggie Miller in Indiana than be a guy who won some meaningless ring, not where I played, and like you've won that franchise has 9 championships. Like I think that sometimes like the ring culture thing gets a lot of hand, and this is a perfect example of like when it really makes sense to go against that. So we'll see how it goes with Bradley Beal. Maybe I've always been low on the Clippers, and they're easy to stay low on because they keep proving you right. I don't know, Gary, if you see more promise in the short term with that team, but I looked at this Bradley Beal thing as kind of a nothing burger for the league's landscape.
Yeah, I think the Clippers' thinking is that, one, they are able to get John Collins in that trade for Norman Powell. So they feel like, hey, we got John Collins and Bradley Beal because they signed him without any, having to trade for him for Norman Powell. right? I think that's the way the Clippers look at it. You got a really capable four-man in the final year of his deal, and then you got Bradley Beal. And I think they were also concerned with how Powell would play with a healthy Kawhi. Powell, has been mostly a reserve in his career, like a sixth man of the year candidate, but he flourished as a starter. This year he could have made, he was an all-star, close to making an all-star team this year. So do you put him back on the bench? What do you do with a healthy Kawhi? I think the Clippers kind of felt like we need to switch some things up, and getting a really capable big with some athleticism and some dog in him, like John Collins, will help their front court. And then Beal, you just cross your fingers he stays healthy and he's dedicated, and that he is engaged and wants to change his reputation. Because obviously when he was in Washington, he was considered a real cornerstone. Obviously, that's why the Wizards signed him to that crazy deal. That ended up being very regrettable for a lot of teams, except for Bradley Beal, of course. He liked the deal. But to me, you hope that Beal is motivated, because this is a team that has to win now. You got Harden and Kawhi on that team. So you got guys who are on the back nine of their careers, and the Clippers have been, like Noah said, kind of not, chirping a little bit in terms of like championship contender and, for years. And it's just, starting when they got Paul George and Kawhi, and it just never happened. Even going back to Blake and CP3 and DeAndre Jordan, it just ain't happened. They haven't even gotten, they just got to the conference finals. They haven't got to a final. So now's the time. So you hope, if you're the Clippers, that Beal steps up and is a very productive and healthy player for the most part during his 2 years in LA.
The crazy part to me is that, let's think about best case scenario, which would be James Harden has an all-star caliber year. Bradley Beal gets back or close to the form that he was, upon arriving in Phoenix, and Kawhi Leonard stays healthy. Even if those three things all happen, I don't know if this team has home court advantage in the first round of the playoffs in the West. I'm not even sure. And I think that's the part about this that I understand why you make a deal like this, because John Collins, I think, is a good player. I think John Collins is one of the more underrated guys out there. I think he could be really good in what the Clippers are trying to do. But that being said, even if he plays well too, I still don't see you being better than OKC. I still don't think you're better than Minnesota. And from that point, I still don't think you're better than Houston. So at best, I see them as maybe the fourth best team out west. And for them to do any kind of damage in the postseason, they're going to have to get some breaks along the way that they have no control over. You're going to have to play teams that are really good who are missing one of their starters for that whole series. Or you're going to have to play a team that has, just they played a 7-game series and you played a 5-game series, and they've got guys that are physically fatigued, and you're able to steal one on the road and be able to take advantage of that. They're going to need some things to happen that they have no control over. And I just think if you are putting your chips on that happening, it's like Russian roulette. You might win or you might kill you. You might die if you're going to bet on something like that. So it'll be interesting to see what happens with the Clippers and Portland. And certainly, the Celtics wouldn't mind having either one of those guys. But look, for the price that they would have had to pay, this doesn't seem worth it. Any final thoughts before we head out of here? I know we're coming up on an hour, some change, but just any final thoughts from either one of you on anything you're working on? Summer League, Celtics, offseason, Gary's movie choices, anything?
No, I have a Matt Reynolds feature coming out tomorrow. So the 400 Matt Reynolds questions that Gary's had to hear me ask in the scrums this week, there was a purpose. It'll be out in the morning. And I'll be at Summer League the rest of the way. So if anybody I don't think these guys are going to play anymore. It's probably going to just be a lot of the rest of the guys that we haven't discussed. But if anything interesting happens, I'll be here.
Gary? It's been a fun Summer League. Good to see some of the young guys out there. Good to see Ugo. Amari Williams is a guy I'm sure next week maybe we'll talk about a little bit more. He's a big dude, by the way. Like, he's a pretty imposing guy, and I think he'll do well in Maine. I think Maine's going to be, he's got to learn some things, but I think he'll be fine. Shoga, I was not impressed, but we'll see how it goes with the two-way, and with that. Somebody asked me my all-time favorite movie. Tough, but I'll throw one out there. I'll say Casino.
Ooh,
Casino.
Okay.
Casino.
Should I watch that or should I watch the other thing that you guys said?
Both.
You
have to pick one.
Homework. Casino.
Yeah, but Die Hard's got such a cultural
you're right. Go with Die Hard. Yeah. She might enjoy Die Hard, actually.
Yeah, I'm one of the rare people that think Casino is better than Goodfellas. I know I'm in the minority, and people want to fight me over that. But I'm more of a Casino guy than Goodfellas. But I love Goodfellas too. So I'm just reading the comments. Goodfellas, great movie, but I'm more of a Casino guy.
Why, Gary? Goodfellas is that's
Joe
a good
Pesci
movie.
was great. I love De Niro, Joe Pesci, the whole the Vegas thing. I mean, I just Don Rickles is in that movie. I mean, who doesn't love Don Rickles? It was a great movie. Then it was a true life story too. So anyway, that's all I got.
Okay. All right, that works. Hey, before we get out of here, for those of you listening to the show, we ask that you subscribe to the podcast, like, and leave a review. And for those watching the show on CLNS, go ahead and hit that like button and subscribe to the CLNS Media and Celtics All Access YouTube channel, where you can find this show and many, many, many others, all great Celtics content. And please make sure to turn on your notifications so you know the instant a new video or show drops like this one. Sherrod Blakely for Gary Washburn and Noa Dalzell. This is the Garden Report.